Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome back, everybody. If you find that you have nobody besides your personal Letterboxd account to talk to about movies, well, buddy, you have found the right place because I think my Letterboxd is getting tired of hearing me ramble as well. Yes, if you have nobody to talk to about movies, you have found the right place because that is what we're going to be doing today. So today we are going to be reviewing and discussing the new VHS movie called VHS Halloween, which came out in 2025. So as we jump into the review and discussion for the brand new VHS movie, if you saw my ranking video for this past year's Fantastic Fest, you know that, spoilers, I really enjoyed this movie. It was number one on my ranking for Fantastic Fest of 2025. So I was so happy that I got a ticket for it, got to experience it in that festival setting. And again, if you saw that ranking, if I'm being honest, I have only seen the very first VHS movie, so I didn't have like too high of expectations jumping into the new one. I just really wanted to check it out, hearing all the good buzz about it. So I feel like I enjoyed it so much to the point where I have now, ZakIsCinema here has dedicated his month of October to covering every single VHS movie, including the spin-offs. So if you're a fan of found footage, if you're a fan of this VHS franchise, please join us here at ZakIsCinema through the rest of the month because we're going to be covering all of these. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different for my rating system at the end. I usually have some pretty standard categories that I use, but I found it kind of difficult for the VHS movies since this is found footage and an anthology series. So pretty much all of them, there are about 5 to 6 mini movies in the movie. So I find it kind of hard to do an overall and rating section for what is essentially 5 different short films. So starting with this movie and our entire franchise, what I'm going to be doing at the end of each short film is I will be giving it 1 point if I've had a good time, fully recommend it, half a point if I'm kind of mixed on it or had a couple more negatives on it, give it a half point, and then I'll give it a 0 point if it's just a short that's not for me, and if I had a lot more kind of not working rather than working when I was experiencing part of the short film here. So then we're going to be averaging them out at the end with all the short films, including the framing narrative, and I'll kind of give you that, whatever it is out of how many short films we have and put it into a percentage. So for this review series, I'm also going to be doing something a little bit different too. I usually do like positives, mixed, and negatives, but again, found it kind of hard since these are all short films essentially wrapped into one movie. So I'm going to be kind of breaking down and doing mini reviews for each of the short films in chronological order with the framing narratives right at the end, so we kind of get that overall thought for that one. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the review section for VHS Halloween, starting with the first short film, Coochie Coochie Coup, which was directed by Anna Zlakovic. 2 teens decide to go trick-or-treating one more time despite being too old, only to stumble into a layer of nightmarish maternal spirit known as the mommy. Now, I think this one definitely struggles with, when we get to the first VHS, some of my issues with some of these segments is that they make the initial characters so unlikable. So to the point when bad, awful things start happening to them, I'm not too apprehensive into seeing them go through that terrible shit. So to me, I kind of find it taking away some of the intensity when you make the characters so despicable that I don't really care what ends up happening to them. And I get that's the point, especially for this one. They're not supposed to be the most likable characters. I just wish they put some more like redeeming things in before some of the bad shit starts going down. For example, these girls are recording themselves having one last night on Halloween trick-or-treating around a neighborhood, and at one point they record themselves stealing candy from a kid in front of their parents and running away while laughing. right up there with murder. I would say that is one of the most deplorable things you could do, especially to a kid on a holiday all about candy. So I wish maybe they held back on that and made them, a little bit more likable. If you want to make them kind of douchey, that's okay, but I need more to like about them, especially when they're about to enter this awful premise. But besides that, I love everything else surrounding this short. I really do like the premise and story and how we get a bit of town lore about a girl or a couple girls going missing on last year's Halloween. We get an interaction with the girls and some town kids talking about the mommy demon or the mommy character that is like infecting this town. So there's little bits and sprinkles before they actually get to the house where that mommy character is. And then I think the introduction of the house is so creepy because it's in this neighborhood, but it seems so vastly different than the surrounding houses. And when they go knocking on the door and then start walking away, all of a sudden the door opens and this hand comes out of complete darkness, shaking a little bag of candy. I just think it's such a fun, creepy way to introduce this mommy character and then the creepy house that we're going to be in for the rest of the short film. So I really love that. And once these girls get into the house, it is so creepy, just disgusting and grim. And I love that they introduce one of my favorite things in more of these haunted house movies is that when they're in there, realize what's going on and try to get out, the house is almost changing around them by closing doors, rearranging its environment, almost making the house seem like a living, breathing character in and of itself. Anytime a movie does that, it always just reminds me of what Kubrick did so well in The Shining. And he did it, not as on the nose where you really have to pick up on that the hotel's been changing throughout the whole movie with stuff in the background. But I like that it's front and center in this fun haunted house experience. It just makes it so much more creepier to me. And I think this short really stood out to me with, again, just how fucked up it is and how gross the house is, full of just breast milk, wet floors with footprints, gross milk pumps on the counter. You have characters that have been in the house literally choking on a breast milk pump at one point. At one point after the mommy's holding the bag of candy and drops it, there's a tiny baby fetus right there. So just a ton of just really sick and gross out things that I really like in this house. And especially when we get introduced to some of the people trapped in the house, how they are really this adult form of a baby, not really old there. You got their cheeks swollen a little bit, so they physically look like an adult baby, which is just so unsettling in my opinion. And again, I like how this one kind of ties into the Halloween title and theme these VHS segments are going for. I like that the mommy character supposedly really only shows up on Halloween and takes advantage of people that are too old trick-or-treating or being too greedy or just taking these awful people off the street. It adds some more to the lore of the character that we get to find out here. But then at the same time, I can't name a bunch of movies off the top of my head right now, but I do feel like it's almost a cliche or stuff that we've kind of seen before of these evil entities or creatures that capture people to almost in their sick, twisted way nurture and preserve their innocence. Like you see it in this short film. Barbarian kind of explores it well, and I talked about Dolly did it as well at Fantastic Fest, and I just feel like there's been movies like that, so I do appreciate the unique things they do with this, but essentially this mommy character is really just capturing people, turning them into kids because she wants to nurture them and literally be their mother. So you've seen it in movies like Mama as well. Just I feel like that is a bit of a trope. However, at the same time, I feel like they do enough interesting with this, just with the house setting alone. The creepy mommy character with literally 6 boobs and dripping milk all the time, which is just so creepy and gross looking. The whole house is disgusting, and I like like how she has some demonic hold over these characters by singing this nursery rhyme and keeping them trapped in the basement. So I do kind of like the little bit added stuff to it. Just I wish it wasn't that specific cliche plot line. Like I maybe wish they did a little bit more than just that. But overall, when they're running through the house, there's a lot of creepy stuff, especially when the mommy's like around the corner of the house, when you got that big dude in the diaper gnawing on the door jamb in a hallway. There's a ton of just creepy, unsettling things, but I feel like it never loses that just like fun tone of these two characters literally running through a haunted house gone so horribly wrong. And I think it does bring a really great like gross out feature to this movie as well that's not just straight up gore. So overall, I do really enjoy this one. I did have a good time with it, so I am giving this short 1 point. So the next short film we're going to be talking about, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but it's Supra Sic Infra, or As Above, So Below, directed by Paco Plaza and Alberto Marini. In this short film, a lone survivor of a mass Halloween massacre is escorted by police back to the crime scene, where the truth behind the grisly events unravels in haunting layers. So to me, one of my favorite things about this segment in the VHS movie is how it kind of starts off with this mystery, and we're on a journey of discovery in this short film. So we get to start off by seeing some photos of police evidence and after the math shots of this horrible crime scene, and then interwoven is the interview with the lone survivor, but also the main subject of investigation for this short film. And I like that we get to find out what's happening as they bring back the subject of the investigation back to the crime scene to kind of see him reenact things and explain to us what he remembers happened that night. So they structure it in a way where it's a bit of a mystery, and we kind of get to put all the pieces of what happened with the characters that are also trying to put together what happened that night. So I really enjoyed the structure in this one. I feel like it almost kind of reminded me of what I enjoyed so much about that very first Hell House LLC movie, where you basically get to see the ending first, and then the rest of the movie structured is trying to show you what led up to it and why, and then what actually happened. So has a similar structure that I really enjoy, that kind of keeps you invested because you want to figure out what happened to all these characters. And I think once we get to that point of revelation, it's a really solid payoff for me, where we get to the crime scene and then the exact same crime or demonic possession outburst happens how it originally happened. We get to see Enrique get possessed as soon as the phone starts ringing, and then we get the revelation of all these police officers and investigators literally floating up to the ceiling. Then you get that really cool shot of Enrique going through the door, and then it goes back up to the camera that's on the ceiling, and then he comes out the door, almost like he's like reversing and going through different portals almost, because he's like walking through time. So I like that addition to it, and he's walking on the ceiling, and then we get the revelation that since he's possessed, he's going and literally just grabbing out these people's eyeballs, and it's so crazy seeing these panicked police officers all like floating up on the ceiling as he's grabbing out their eyes, and then he just kind of disappears and then lets all of them drop to the floor, and that's how we get to find out what happened there. So this one's pretty simple, straightforward. There's a bit of a mystery, and I like where it goes. I like the payoff. There's not much to this one. It kind of plays out straightforward once it gets going, but I think it's a really good version of what it's going for. So I think it had some wild ideas to it, a great payoff at the end that I think is creepy and unsettling, and I enjoy this one for what it is. So for this one, I'm going to give it another 1 point. So we got 2 points so far. The next short film we're going to be discussing is Fun Size, directed by Casper Kelly. In this short, a group of disappointed partygoers go trick-or-treating and take more candy than allowed. plunging them into a twisted candy factory where their bodies are turned into treats. Now, this is easily my favorite of this VHS movie, my favorite segment here, the one that I feel like most people are going to be talking about. I also love how this short fun size kind of connects that first short as well by having the characters trick-or-treating in the same neighborhood. They even run into the same old dude that, asks, like, aren't you a bit too old to be trick-or-treating, which he said to the first two girls. So I like that connectedness. I like that sticking with the Halloween theme by literally having characters trick-or-treat in the same neighborhood. So I like that kind of connectedness this movie was going for. And this one easily blends the humorous side this movie goes for with its horrifying, twisted, nightmare-fueled side that it's also going for. And I think this one shows how well you can really blend horror and comedy. I think it's a perfect blend of the two with its outrageous ideas that are still so fun and scary. To me, I love this scene when they go up to that old dude and then we find out that the characters are dressed up as, one is like a superhero, another's a pirate, and then the other two characters are supposed to be found footage crew members for a found footage horror movie. So we introduce some satire and self-awareness to this one, and it really shows you what the tone is that it's going to be going for the rest of the short. So I found that absolutely hilarious, and I also like that they try to do a little bit more with the characters when we find out one of the couples just got proposed to, recently engaged, but the girl in the relationship really almost is just still in that relationship because she feels bad for him and doesn't want to continue being engaged to him and hasn't told him yet or found a way how to told him yet. And the guy is just so oblivious to the fact and keeps calling her fiance throughout, and just the way he says it during the times that he says it is so funny each and every time he does. So I just love the almost self-aware kind of humor they were going for in this one. I think it really works, really lands for me here. And again, with this one sticking to the Halloween theme, I really like the idea of just bad things happening to people that don't follow the Halloween and trick-or-treating rules. So in this short, the characters take more than one piece of candy from a take one piece of candy bowl and then almost go into this alternate reality candy factory, something almost out of the back rooms almost. So just showing you the worst possible scenario if you don't follow those standard trick-or-treating rules. So I love, again, that self-aware kind of just fun humor this movie's going for. And then as soon as we get into that backroom segment, that's when this movie goes from pretty good to really, really great, where it's just so creepy, weird, and creative. I love when that fun-size monster comes out, almost some like evil candy factory mascot. He's just so, like, he'd be so creepy seeing in a room like this, but since we're watching it as a movie, he's so fun just to see him dismember all these people, and he's just so giddy about turning these people into candy. And I love how they get sucked into this world, get put onto a conveyor belt that is pushing them through this machine, literally dismembering their body in the goofiest way possible, and drizzling caramel and chocolate on them and turning their body parts into Halloween candy. And again, when that happens, I absolutely adore the revelation we get when, in the beginning, when that one pirate guy was tasting some of the candy and chose the penis-shaped ones, and it's just like, oh, it's an adult novelty candy. Then you get the revelation that, oh shit, he literally just ate a penis from a previous victim. So again, just so creepy and unsettling, but so over the top and funny at the same time. And I love how we get to kind of see it play out like this. And again, sticking with that humor, I love when we get the recently engaged couple, our final couple there, as they're trying to escape through this air vent, realize it's just another candy factory bell, and the guy starts trying to get married to his fiance. She finally says no, doesn't want to be with him, and as soon as she says that, he starts getting chopped up and screaming as she tries to run away, but then gets captured by the fun-size mascot. So I think this one has a great ending that kind of pays off what was going on with those characters. It's a lot of fun. It's wacky, so creative. Just this one definitely got the biggest reaction out of my theater at Fantastic Fest, and it was a blast watching this one again. I just want to show people, just, if they don't want to sit down and watch the whole thing with me, at least watch this segment. I think it's absolutely amazing amazing. And yeah, fun size easily gets 1 point, so we are at 3 points right now. The next short is KidPrint, directed by Alex Ross Perry. A video store runs a KidPrint service to help find missing children, but the tapes hide a sinister secret linking the store to the abductions. Now, right off the bat, I think this short does have a very interesting setup and again ties to that Halloween trick-or-treating vibe that the movie's going for. We follow this store and this store owner who takes appointments and videos and takes pictures of these kids to get updated information in case they go missing, because in this town there's a lot of missing kids, abductions, and murders going on. So if a kid does go missing, they want the police and public to have the most up-to-date information. So we kind of follow a store owner that is running this literal KidPrint business. So I do like that, but unfortunately, I would say this one is my least favorite out of this VHS Halloween movie. I feel like I get like little to no enjoyment, which is definitely what it's going for, because I'll give it credit where this is one of the most fucked up things I've seen in a movie, where one of the employees that works all the cameras and video editing stuff is actually the one just kidnapping these kids and literally torturing them in the back of their office by skinning them, wearing the kids' skin, dismembering them, and just torturing them for fun before he just disregards the body. So, and we get to see a lot of it. They don't hold back with the gore. It's very well done, all practically done, and it's just so grim, devoid of any humor, which obviously that's what they're going for. Just, I feel like overall this one stands out to me because it doesn't really fit the tone of all the other shorts, and this is my second time watching it, and I'm just like, this one's not the best. I just don't enjoy sitting through this one, which again, I know that's what they're going for. Just, I think my biggest issue with this one is there's really no mystery or story to it that's all that interesting, and I feel like it'd be so fucking obvious for the police to find out what is going on in this town if all the kids are missing just so happen to be at the KidPrint business pretty recently, and it seems like it's a very small town of everyone knowing each other, so it just seemed kind of obvious. There was no twists or turns or grand revelations that I guess I didn't really see coming. So this one's okay. If you like just straight up fucked up grim horror, I think you might enjoy this one. It definitely doesn't hold back, but I think for the tone and vibe of this overall movie, and it's just not one that I could see myself going back to, or if I rewatch this one, just kind of skipping over it. This one's okay to me. I like things about it. I don't like things about it. So I think for this one, we're going to give it a 0.5 point. So I believe we are at 3.5 points. The next short we're going to be discussing is Home Haunt, directed by Micheline Pitt Norman and R.H. Norman. A father and son reopen their homemade haunted house attraction one last time, only for the decorations to come alive and unleash carnage on Halloween night. Throughout this movie, we kind of get perspectives and short films from a bunch of different decades, so I like how this one starts off with home footage of this father and son's home haunt for their neighborhood in the late 70s, then kind of jumps almost a decade later into the mid to late 80s, so I like the kind of change in decades, and I think it works well for this one when it's kind of going over this family's story and this family's legacy in this town. And I think to me, I just enjoy the kind of sweet story in this one where we get to see a bunch of home videotapes of this father and son that seem to have this really close bond and get really bonded and excited around their neighborhood home haunt that they put on together. They have all these characters, this lore that they follow, and they keep trying to do new and expanding things with each year's Halloween setup. And then we jump about a decade later and we see just how far the son and father have split up, and the son doesn't really want to do it anymore, but is kind of just forced into doing it one last time and just really despises his father for it because everybody makes fun of him for continuing to do it at this age. So it's nothing like deep or grand with its story, characters, and arc, but I always appreciate when found footage but especially these VHS shorts can focus a little bit on the characters because it's so hard to do in a found footage style and also in its limited runtime. So I appreciate that it tried to do something here. And I think I enjoyed the just simple story of a father and son setting up this haunted house for their neighborhood one last time. They go shopping for it, find a cursed record, and then when they play it at the home haunt, it just awakens demonic spirits and causes all their fun, cheap decorations to just come to life. And then we get to literally see that play out with the neighborhood walking through it. And I think this one has some good humor too, especially with the character, that neighbor character, I believe named Rich, how he's just another bitter old man and shows up to literally just make fun of Keith and keeps telling him all of them look like shit and he's only there every year to keep telling him it looks like shit. That definitely got a big reaction out of my theater, and it was definitely funny the second time I was watching it too. I think this one has some great practical effects, really great gore as well when the home haunt decorations just start coming to life and wreaking havoc on the neighborhood. Like that one part when the demons or creatures are ripping apart that kid in that bee costume, I believe. Some pretty gnarly graphic stuff that they don't hold back from, but it's still done in almost this fun kind of way, even though what they're doing is so dark and disturbing. And I really love the stuff at the end when we get our final boss of the home haunt with the witch, and as she goes flying through the neighborhood that looks similar to the neighborhood some of our other shorts took place in, and then literally stabs a kid on her broom and goes flying up with him as the camera falls down. It reminded me a lot of the very first short in the first VHS with that vampire one flying around and then drops the glasses that have the camera in it. So just something similar, and I think that witch scene at the end really helps to tie all the Halloween stuff together, and you got to have a witch in a home haunted house thing. So I definitely enjoy this one. I think I have a lot of fun with this one. It sticks with that Halloween tone and vibe. I wish it kind of maybe did a little bit more. Once you get going with it, it just kind of plays out exactly how you think it's going to play out. Like they come to life and just dismember everybody. Like there's not much more to it. Like it's fun. I just wish maybe they did a little bit more to it. So I think for this one, I'm going to give it a half a point. So I believe we are at 4 points right now. And lastly, let's discuss the frame narrative, which is Diet Phantasma, directed by Brian M. Ferguson. A corporation tests a new soda formula in focus groups, but the drink causes grotesque side effects, possession, spontaneous combustion, and violent mutations as the experiments spiral out of control. Now, this framing narrative short definitely got a big reaction from my theater. I love how this frame narrative starts as like this comically over-the-top but fucked up version of the laboratory in Stranger Things and movies and shows. Kind of like that. I love the juxtaposition this short goes for with this ultra serious sci-fi laboratory, but then you get the juxtaposition of the over-the-top lead scientist doctor guy as he's interviewing his test subjects that are in these prison jumpsuits acting like mental hospital patients, and you're like, what the hell are they going to be doing or testing to these? Like it makes you think they're going to be doing some experiments that are really messed up, but then they bring them into the laboratory, all the scientists are behind this glass, and you're like, oh my god, they're gonna test something really fucked up, and then they just like bring out a soda for them to drink. So I love the juxtaposition on that. I think it's serious, but then also introduces that very just silly kind of premise to it. And again, it kind of sets up almost a little bit of a mystery where they get the soda. You're like, okay, something bad's gonna happen, but I don't know what could happen with a soda. And then you get that very first patient, I forget what number, but very crazy shot of the patient opening the soda, taking a sip, then all of a sudden these practical effect tentacles come out of the can, grab his face, and then just smush the can into his face, so it's just going through his face and his skull. Really great effects, really great practical effects, and I love just how over the top and wacky it really went, but also still made it so horrifying at the same time. And I think the humor for me works so well in this frame narrative, where even though they keep almost repeating the same joke, I just found it so funny how the main scientist guy almost gets so frustrated, pissed off, and almost inconvenienced once the experiments aren't going right, or if the patients are asking some questions or not reacting right to the formula. He's always screaming to dial down the formula, introduce some more pumpkin spice into the drink, and it's just, you would think it would get a little bit repetitive, but the acting, dialogue, and just the premise, each time it showed up, I just found it funnier and funnier. And I think because they keep making the test patients die in even more extreme ways, it makes it feel a little bit less repetitive because it keeps topping itself every time it cuts back to it. So, and even though I really enjoy this one and just how fun and funny the premise is, I do kind of wish, since it is that framing narrative, that it had some level of connectedness to the rest of the shorts. Now, I don't need an explanation of the tapes, the origins, why we're watching the tapes, and have it connect every single short. I think that might go too far and might feel shoehorned in given the explanation, but this one just really felt like it was originally planned as a segment in the VHS movie, but then they're like, oh fuck, we don't really have a framing narrative. Why don't we take this one and just chop it up a little bit? So I feel like I'm a little bit mixed on that. Like, I wish it worked better as the framing narrative, even though I still really do like it. So I think for this one, I'm going to give it that half a point just because of its misuse in the framing narrative section, if that makes sense, but still really, really enjoy that one. All that to say, I would say overall, I think this movie was a huge surprise for me, and I really enjoyed my time with it at the theater and watching it again for the second time. I feel like I can almost recommend all of these segments because I could see people enjoying some more than I did, enjoying all of them, being mixed on some, maybe not liking a couple, but I feel like you get a big variety, that there is something here for everybody, especially if you enjoy VHS or found footage or just some fun Halloween movie. I think there is something here for everyone, and overall, I would say each short was definitely very well done, which I think is important for a movie like this. So for my rating for VHS Halloween here, this movie has a total of 6 shorts, including the frame narrative. So if we add up my points given to each short, I'm giving it here a 4.5 out of the total 6. So a 75% for VHS Halloween. But you guys have my thoughts here on the new VHS Halloween movie. Please let me know if you check this out, what you think about it, if you're more familiar with the franchise. How does this kind of stack up to the rest? Was it a big surprise for you? Was it a big disappointment? Did you like it more than me? Did you hate it more than me? I'm curious on where people are going to be on this movie, but obviously, as for me, thoroughly enjoyed this. Definitely looking forward to kind of covering the rest of the VHS movies, so look forward to that. I appreciate anybody watching my videos. It does mean a lot, so thank you so much, and yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.